Hey everybody, this is Double RPG here, and I'm here to present another 2 cents video on the 2 cents block for you all. And we all know that E3 was a really big time for Nintendo and Nintendo fans alike, and how they presented themselves with a plethora of content, like a new Star Fox, Bayonetta 1 being packaged in with Bayonetta 2, and Splatoon, and even the new Legend of Zelda for the Wii U getting revealed for the first time, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, those were some really great things that we saw at E3 this year from the big end. But a lot of people, including myself and most of the people from Kotaku, have been raising this one question. Where's Metroid? Well, fear not, folks, as Nintendo does have plans to bring about a new 2D and 3D game in the Metroid franchise. In a recent interview on Kotaku, both Shigeru Miyamoto and Nintendo producer Shinya Takahashi says that they have plans to bring about a new 2D and 3D game in the franchise. And this is what they said. This is based on this little snippet. So it has been a while since we released the last one, and we're having discussions internally about what we can do next. And for those of you who don't know, our last game was Metroid Other M. So at this point, we have two different types of Metroid games. We have the Prime style of Metroid games, and we have the traditional style of Metroid games. We feel that we do need to take care of both of these styles of play. And the hope is that at some point in the near future, we'll be able to share something about them. And this is what I have to say about the matter, because we are in desperate need of a new Metroid game because of the following reasons. Number one, Metroid is one of Nintendo's franchises that is mature in terms of story. Not mature like there's a bunch of blood and guts and, there's death and all that. No. It's nothing like that. Mature like in growth of characters, or characters growing in maturity and that kind of stuff. And when talking about characters like Samus Aran for that matter. Number two, Metroid has been Nintendo's diamond in the rough for older audiences. Yeah, when you take a look at Metroid games, they're mostly dark and foreboding, kind of like what The Legend of Zelda goes for, even though there are some comical and light elements in that series, and not fully light like what the Mario series goes for. Number three, the series needs to go forward with something new in terms of the story. And believe it or not, the most recent entry, or the one that takes place the farthest or the most forward in the chronology, is Metroid Fusion. And there has not been a game that takes place after that one to progress the story even further. So yeah, now's about time that we actually get with one. Number four, whether if the new 3D game in the series is that of Other M or Metroid Prime, I'd say either is fine, because we definitely need something new. And number five, the series needs more recognition, as there are hardly so many games. I would say there are probably about 10, 11 to 12 games in the mix. I could be mistaken, but yeah, the series is really not that big with that many games. I mean, it could get up in the same numbers as The Legend of Zelda, but seriously, there's got to be more than just what we're seeing right now. Now, even though they did announce that they do have some Metroid games in the pipeline, I do have some concerns that I actually want to go over. And first, I'll start with the 2D games, and then I'll talk about the 3D games. Now, I feel that the 2D Metroid games need to do the following. One, go forward with the story taking place after Metroid Fusion, which the reason is pretty obvious, because we haven't seen any story taking place after that game. I mean, with the last canonical entry, which is Metroid Other M, it was an interquel between both Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, and it didn't really move the story forward. It pretty much brought Samus into a more humanized character before Metroid Fusion, where she was completely human, but let's see something that's expanded beyond that, and be sure that, like a really good writer who knows how to portray women, can actually make a strong character out of her, and not just be all eye candy and that kind of stuff. Number two, return to the gameplay of both Fusion and Zero Mission, and mesh them together with creating some new gameplay ideas. When you take a look at Fusion and Zero Mission, they did have a few new things to show about for those games, but it just seems like they completely rehashed a lot of the moves and a lot of the power-ups that we've seen since Super Metroid. So we really haven't seen anything new or anything that's groundbreaking to differentiate from both of those games. So yeah, I think the time for the 2D Metro games to innovate with new ideas is about freaking time, because Metroid Prime 3 Corruption was the last game that actually innovated with new power-ups like the Nova Beam, and even having that Phazon armor or whatever it is. Yeah, we need to see something new like that. And number 3, focus on putting in so much effort with there being plenty of content and not a quick project. Because with Metroid games, it seems like anybody can just beat those games in probably a few hours and not like between 10 to 20. Because I would like to see a lot of content being put into a Metroid game than just trying to beat the game very quickly, because I want to be immersed into the worlds where there is so much that you can do in, with Samus Aran and trying to grow her into a pretty strong character and that kind of stuff, which they have before, but seriously, it wasn't really like, big or ambitious and that kind of stuff. I mean, those are my concerns about the 2D games, but for the 3D games, they need to do the following, and I'll talk about both the Prime style and the Other M style, if Nintendo decides to pursue in one of the two ways, or possibly both. But I'll talk about the Metroid Prime games with their gameplay style. So, if they move the story in the, with Metroid Prime, in either Metroid Prime or Other M style, they need to take that same approach with the 2D series in innovating new gameplay ideas after what we've seen in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. I mean, if Samus continues to speak like what they showed her in Metroid Other M, and even in Metroid Fusion, even though she spoke in dialogue text, then make her voice have character and not just that of a droning voice, of that matter. I mean, even though Jessica Martin did an okay job for Samus, it just kind of made me feel that she wasn't being believable towards the character. Again, I would have to agree with Gaijin Goomba that her droning voice in that game was the product of Nintendo of America's mislocalization practice, with not knowing how to properly give the characters the proper voice, basically. And the third thing that I think they need to do is do something that goes beyond just visiting different planets. I mean, if there's something like, a really deadly entity that lives on the certain planets, or like in the certain levels or whatever, when you're trying to go through the whole planets at 100%, then they really need to do something else aside from, just jumping from one planet to the other and that kind of stuff. Because it just seems like, even though we jump from one planet to the other in Metroid Prime 3, it just seems like there wasn't really that much in terms of completion in order to actually bring full closure after visiting those certain places. And number 4, try the idea of having spaceship battles like in Nintendo Land's Metroid level attraction, or Metroid attraction that was in Nintendo Land, where you can actually shoot space pirate ships or anything like that, or where you can have Samus get out of her ship and actually shoot at everybody with her arm cannon in that third-person view. That actually would bring in something new aside from just the first-person elements. Now, if the game is going in the style of Metroid Other M, here's what they need to do. 1. Go far more insane with the action elements in the gameplay. I mean, I really did like the gameplay elements from Metroid Other M, where Samus was over the top and just kind of being acrobatic with fighting your enemies. They need to go above and beyond that. I mean, I'd say, if anything, let Team Ninja or possibly even Platinum Games do the next Metroid game in that style, because they know how to do well with third-person action games with that level of craziness when it comes to the beat 'em up or hack and slash approach. Number 2, make the story very enjoyable and not cliched as Other M was, and continue building on Samus's character. And yeah, I would say that this would definitely, please a lot of people who actually really do enjoy story, because I know some people, they tend to actually like Metroid Other M, not because of how cliched it was, but because of how Team Ninja and Sakamoto actually made Samus Aran more human than just her being what people would consider a sexual icon, because of her having bigger breasts and and that kind of stuff. But it's like, dude, she's just more than just a body. She's more than just plus-sized boobs. She's more than just having high heels. She is a character. She has personality. And I've said this before when I talked about why Link should have a voice, but you know what I mean. Number 3, make it more non-linear experience where you feel that you grow with progression. That's something that I kind of felt down with when it came to both Metroid Fusion and Other M, is that both games felt very linear, and it seemed like they weren't going for that non-linear approach as the older Metroid games were going for. So I actually do want to see there be, more immersion and more, like bringing yourself into the world, or, the certain settings that you have to go through. Number 4, and this is a really big one. Have newer power-ups and not reuse the ones like in Other M. Because when we take a look at Other M, it pretty much reused all the power-ups from Super Metroid and even Metroid Fusion. You know, nothing even brand new to actually bring in something groundbreaking. And that really kind of ticked me off about the game. Even though the action gameplay was great, it seems a lot of the power-ups were not even that, brand new, or that were not even that spectacularly different from the ones that we already got accustomed to from past games. And finally, number 5, when they make a new Metroid game, I'm going to say this: don't try to recreate Super Metroid or any of the other Metroid games and bring the series in a new direction with new ideas. It seems like with every Metroid game that comes out, it seems like they always try to do something to capitalize on like the best Metroid game ever created, or they just pretty much take the same approach without, doing something that's completely drastic in order to, try to flesh out newer ideas. I mean, if they did something like they started with the power beam, and then your next power up, or the next beam that you power up with is the plasma beam, then yeah, I'd say go for that in case that they want to make you all powerful in that kind of stuff when you start off in the beginning to take down some really harder enemies if the game really wanted you to go in that direction. So yeah, I want to see Nintendo, or possibly who's developing the next Metroid game, actually try to innovate with newer ideas in terms of pretty much just about everything. Don't try to rehash what was already done in the Metroid games. Try to go above and beyond that. I mean, it's okay to have all the power-ups available, but do something that makes you, I don't know, maybe evolve the power-ups into something new and completely powerful than what you already saw. So, yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about both the 2D and the 3D Metroid games. I mean, I do feel that the time is right to bring back a new game from both perspectives, the 2D and 3D styles, and I just want to see the series evolve for the better. I mean, I know there were a lot of people who did not like it, and a lot of people actually did like Other M and some of the other 2D games, and most of the others, they did like the Metroid Prime series. But we got to see something new to actually take place in order for the Metroid series to continue to evolve for the better. I mean, like I said, I have high hopes that, I probably wouldn't say I have high hopes, but I would stay reserved about where Nintendo is going with Metroid in the future, because if they do something that probably gets worse than Metroid Other M, then they're pretty much going to be running the franchise dry. So I think they actually need to look at all the flaws from their past games, including Other M, and know what can actually work better. And I definitely see that being a possibility, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see in the near future, or even next year, when we learn about what Nintendo has in the pipeline for Metroid in both the 2D and 3D aspect of the franchise. Alright guys, that's pretty much all I have to say about the matter. I want to know what you all think. Do you prefer, are you really looking forward to a new 2D Metroid and a 3D Metroid? And if so, what gameplay styles or what directions do you think they should take for any of the directions in their certain, or their trademarked gameplay elements that you actually want to see evolve for the better? I mean, what would you like to see different? What would you like to see something that hasn't been done before and that kind of stuff? Just let me know what you think. Other than that, be sure to rate this video, as well as leaving your positive and negative feedback down in the comments. And if you like what you saw, then be sure to subscribe to my video, or subscribe to my channel, as more content will be coming from me in the future that you won't even find anywhere else. And until next time, this is Double RPG signing off by saying Godspeed and game on, gamers. Have a good one.